UFOs are in the news like never before. The official Pentagon investigation has revealed that while it has not found any definitive evidence of extraterrestrial visitation, it has confirmed that a number of objects spotted by military witnesses were metallic and solid. Recently, whistleblower David Grusch dropped a bombshell allegation that the U.S. has been running a UFO recovery program in secret since the end of the Second World War. And unlike other people to make that claim before him, Grusch brought the receipts, informing the Congressional Intelligence Committee in a classified meeting where to look and who to ask. But UFOs are a global phenomenon, and China has been no stranger to these unexplained sightings. Under the iron fist of the Chinese Communist Party, independent UFO investigation has been difficult, and the government has not been very open with its own investigation into the matter. However, some UFO events were so huge that not even the CCP could keep them under wraps. It's perhaps China's most famous UFO event, and it would take place over the course of over 20 years, with evidence that even hardcore skeptics have found difficult to dismiss. It all started in June of 1994 with a remote mountain village far from China's bustling cities. This was a time when China was just starting to experience the start of the economic miracle which would reshape it from a second world power to a near-peer competitor to the United States. Most people still lived in the rural countryside, and education outside of the big cities was scarce if not rare. A local lumberjack, Meng Xiaoguo, reported spotting a strange object on a nearby mountainside. The object shimmered with some light, and Meng initially thought that it was an airplane or perhaps a helicopter crash of some sort. Hoping to scavenge some of the wreckage, Meng made his way toward the object. As he neared the object, but before being able to tell what it truly was, Meng stated that he felt as if something struck him in the forehead, causing him to lose consciousness. The next thing Meng remembers is regaining consciousness back at his home, with no memory of how he trekked all the way back to his village from the mountainside. With the object no longer in sight, Meng quickly forgot about it and went back to his normal life. However, a few days after seeing the strange object, Meng stated that he woke up abruptly in the middle of the night. He was floating above his bed with his wife still asleep next to it, and to his terror he saw a creature enter his home through a solid wall. This creature stood about 10 feet tall and was humanoid in shape, but with 6 fingers on each hand and thighs covered in braided hair. Meng could tell it was female, and the creature approached him as he laid there helplessly. This creature very briefly had sex with him, with Meng stated it only lasted for a few seconds before it vanished once again through the wall and he floated back down onto his bed. Days after this nighttime visit, Meng claimed that the aliens returned and at one point brought him inside of their ship. There, a group of the tall beings began to speak to him in broken Chinese, which made it difficult for him to understand them. The aliens spoke with Meng about themselves but were cagey about giving specific details. They stated that they were refugees who were fleeing a dying home, though if they were escaping a planet that was physically dying or simply a social situation they didn't like remains unknown due to the strange wording the creatures used. Meng asked about the female alien that he had a sexual encounter with, but the creatures told him that it would be impossible for him to see her now, instead telling him, quote, "In 60 years on a distant planet, the son of a Chinese peasant will be born." Before returning him to his home, the aliens also showed Meng a strange recording, and one that would make this a very difficult case to explain. On a monitor of some sort, the aliens showed Meng a giant planet with a comet smashing into it. They explained that this was a recording of a comet striking the planet Jupiter right here in the solar system. Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 would indeed strike Jupiter on July 16th, the day Meng was shown the supposed recording, breaking up into pieces that would rain down until July 20th. 22 years later, Meng claimed that the aliens returned to visit him once more and presented him with a piece of that comet. That piece of rock would end up complicating Meng's case decades after it had been forgotten, when it was discovered to be rich in terbium, a rare earth mineral common in the asteroid belt. Meng's story would set off a media frenzy, and this would significantly complicate the act of trying to piece together the original story with published accounts. For example, some reports state that Meng went to see the alien ship with 30 other men before he was struck unconscious and they brought him home. Another early report states that Meng went to find the ship with his niece's husband. One report stated that the sexual encounter between Meng and the alien lasted 40 minutes, while Meng himself claimed in 2021 it only lasted a few seconds. What we do know is that the incident prompted many Chinese UFO groups to make the trip to Meng's remote village to investigate the story themselves. They discovered scorch marks on surrounding trees as well as rocks split into pieces where Meng claimed the ship had originally landed. Wang Fengchen, first chairman of the Beijing UFO Research Organization, suggested that it appeared as if an aircraft had landed and took off again, though there was no indication it was alien in nature. An investigation of Meng's home revealed a troubling result. According to Wang, a researcher from the Chinese Academy of Sciences used a Geiger counter to measure radiation in Meng's home. When the instrument was brought close to the wall Meng claimed the alien had passed through, the instrument went haywire. No amount of troubleshooting could explain the instrument's response. Initial reactions varied on Meng's story, even within the UFO investigative community itself. A Secretary General of the Beijing UFO Research Organization claimed that Meng had no credibility and that local leaders claimed he was mad. Lots of people who already wanted to believe him were led astray by Meng upon encountering them, claimed the former Secretary General. Meng, though, would pass a polygraph test when asked to take one. Administered by local police, the test showed no sign of deception from Meng as he retold his story. However, polygraph tests aren't foolproof and thus remain inadmissible in court in most countries. The more difficult aspect of Meng's story to explain is his claim that he saw a video of a comet striking Jupiter. The event was relatively unknown to most people even as it was happening until newspapers ran front-page photos of the comet impacts picked up by the Hubble telescope. How did a remote villager in China's undeveloped countryside know of a comet impact on the solar system's largest planet? It's not an easy question to answer, especially without knowing more about the initial investigation, having a clearer timeline of Meng's encounters, and what kind of exposure Meng might have had to the academic community. When Meng revealed he'd been gifted a part of that comet by the same aliens in 2016, he reignited debates over his encounter. The large rock was analyzed by scientists who were shocked to discover it contained large concentrations of terbium, a rare earth mineral. It's unfortunate that those scientists' report is not available to Western readers as it's unknown what concentration the terbium was discovered in. Some of the richest terbium deposits on Earth come from China's clays, where it rests at a concentration of about 1%. However, terbium is also abundant in the asteroid belt, complicating the effort to explain it away as a simple rock this Chinese peasant happened to pick up. And if it was a simple rock he picked up, then this peasant with little education just happened to pick one up that was impossible to explain away as terrestrial. But then there's the description of the aliens that Meng gave. In 2015, Meng was visited by a reporter working for the Huffington Post, who asked him to sketch an alien that he allegedly had a sexual encounter with. The reporter realized that Meng was drawing something very similar to the Michelin Man mascot, albeit with a lot of hair. A local auto repair shop had a Michelin Man face on a sign placed on its roof. Meng's story is difficult to explain and raises questions for both believers and skeptics. The wall Meng claimed the alien had passed through did seem to give off lingering radiation, and something had set fire to vegetation and cracked rocks at the spot Meng claimed he saw the ship. But at the same time, Meng's aliens bore a striking resemblance to a corporate mascot who happened to be prominently featured on a nearby sign. Meng's rock, which he claims is a piece of the comet that crashed into Jupiter, is rich in a rare earth mineral that's most commonly found in China's clays, but in extremely low concentrations, and that same mineral happens to be abundant in some celestial rocky bodies. We also know that comet Shoemaker-Levy broke up into many pieces in its death spiral before slamming into Jupiter. Without access to the original investigation documents, including those from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, it's impossible to draw a conclusion about this case. But we do know that China is taking the UAP-UFO phenomenon very seriously, and unlike the United States, it has refused to comment. The People's Liberation Army has its own UFO investigation group and refers to UAPs as unidentified air conditions. However, the only thing the public has been able to learn from the military investigation is that reports of UAP activity amongst the Chinese military appears to be on the rise. It's also known that the staggering number of reports has forced the Chinese investigation to turn to artificial intelligence to help process the raw data. Like in similar investigations in the United States and Russia, the Chinese Academy of Sciences believes that most UFOs are misidentified natural or man-made phenomenon. However, Chinese investigations seem to be unable to account for a percentage of sightings which seem to evade rational explanation. This too mirrors both the American and Russian investigations into the phenomenon. Some of these sightings have a large number of witnesses, making them difficult to dispel. In February 14th of this year, residents in the city of Qiqihar in the province of Heilongjiang reported spotting a strange light in the sky. The object moved along the sky and left a fiery trail behind it, disappearing after a few seconds. The Qiqihar Meteorological Bureau said it had not been notified of any military activity in the area and could not explain the briefly appearing fiery light that seemed to disappear just as fast. At 9 p.m. on August 20, 2011, air crews from dozens of aircraft flying over Shanghai witnessed a massive glowing sphere in the sky which seemed to pulsate. Skeptics claimed that it was likely caused by a bubble of diffused rocket fuel outside the atmosphere, but witnesses were not satisfied with that answer, claiming the object was solid. The UFO was also spotted by observers in Beijing who witnessed it appear as a giant white ball of light before slowly disappearing. Answers ranged from rocket fuel in the upper atmosphere to unknown military satellite activities, but with no similar events recorded by other space agencies, the true cause remains unknown. UFOs are not a modern phenomenon for the world's oldest civilization. All the way back in 1071, the poet Su Dongpo wrote about a UFO he spotted while staying overnight in Jinshan Temple in Xinjiang. In 1892, painter Wu Youru produced a painting from an incident observed by himself in the local community. Called Red Flame Soaring in the Sky, the painting illustrates a burning ball crossing the sky while onlookers stare in awe from a bridge. UFOs seem to take as keen an interest in China as elsewhere in the world, and disturbingly the same phenomenon reported elsewhere was being reported in China. On March 18, 1991, at 6 p.m., the crew of Flight 3665, flying from Shanghai to Jinan, observed a spheroidal UFO that disassembled itself into a single sphere and various cylinders, then reassembled into one solid craft once more. The conversation between the ground crew and the aircraft was recorded as the crew described the craft's color changing from red to black as it reformed itself. UFOs would also shut down numerous Chinese airports throughout the years. In 2010, UFOs shut down an airport in Hangzhou in Inner Mongolia as flight crews reported seeing luminescent craft in the sky above the airport. Later that year, an airport in Chongqing would get its own visit. Unfortunately, the People's Republic of China's authoritarian and restrictive culture has made investigation of the UFO phenomenon difficult for both local and foreign researchers. China's Cold War history with UFOs is largely unknown, with the PRC adopting an extremely conservative attitude toward the UFO phenomenon until only recently. While the Shanghai UFO Research Center was founded in 1979, it was only legally registered in 2005, an indication of how long people in China have had to wait for the government to loosen up its attitude toward the UFO phenomenon. That's not to say that the PRC is being candid with its modern UFO investigation or even the history of the People's Liberation Army and UFOs, with rumors circulating that UFOs have shown particular aggression towards Chinese attempts to intercept or down them. Now go check out Soviet Union declassified UFO encounters revealed, or click this other video instead.